Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com. I'm Joe Cook, got Justin Wells, got Eric Nalin. It is time to talk a little bit more about yesterday's practice. But before we get going, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, help us get to 10,000. We're going to have some great stuff for you all throughout camp, all throughout the season. And we appreciate your help with this channel. If you're on podcast, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating and review. And of course, head to InsideTexas.com. We have the best team coverage there is in this market. You don't want to miss any of the stuff that we've got going on over on Inside Texas. Between Ian Boyd's analysis, he actually just put up an article talking about Texas tight ends, a position Steve Sarkisian calls the second most important on the team. We're going to have a ton of content. We were at practice yesterday. We got to see and post our observations from practice. You're not going to want to miss those, and we're going to have more today as the Longhorns get going. You're excited, Huncho. I'm excited as well. We're going to go ahead and get going to it. Again, all this stuff over on Inside Texas, but we will talk about some of our big takeaways. Eric, one of Steve Sarkisian's takeaways from his press conference was that he thought his defense was a lot faster. May have looked a little bit different, of course, without having about 600, 700 pounds of dude in the middle of the defense. Yeah, it is going to be a little bit different. But he liked the speed and some of the depth that he had on defense, especially compared to maybe about 365 days ago.
Well, if you go position by position, they are going to be faster. Everybody loves Jalen Ford, great Longhorn. Anthony Hill's faster than him. David Benda, fast as ever. If you look at the safeties, having Andrew Makuba back there has much better range. Not only range, but know-how. Playing safety is as much about being fast as thinking fast. Corners are Malik Muhammad playing in the field. I think that actually – I'm not saying he's faster than Terrence Brooks, but he processes and plays faster than Terrence Brooks. If he's going to stay in the field, that's good too. Janae Barron is a faster Longhorn than I think people realize. The fact that he moved to star, I think, obfuscated people's understanding of how fast he is. He's fast enough to play corner. He only moved to star because that's where they needed him. He's a corner. It's a faster defense, without a doubt. Trey Moore coming off the edge is faster than Ethan Burke coming off the edge. It's definitely a faster defense.
I think one of the areas where we saw that depth at least be really made evident is, Justin, we were watching, I guess, a little bit of an inside run type drill. And you can only do so much when the only protective gear you're wearing is helmets. And they call it spiders, right, Eric? Which is basically they're basically lacrosse pads. Think of that thickness. So you can only glean so much from inside run. But the depth at edge was very apparent when watching that inside run drill, because you go from the starters in that little clip we saw, Trey Moore and Barron Sorrell, and then guys like Ethan Burke, Colton Vosick, even Justice Finkley, Colin Simmons, all those different guys started to cycle through as they went, to the second team and a little bit to the third team. Those are all guys that could start at a lot of different Power 5 programs, and they're fighting to work their way up the depth chart at Texas at the edge position.
No, they are. And that's, it's a team strength now. This is something Eric and I talked about last night. You go from 3 years ago to not really knowing who's going to be in that room to bringing in a couple guys just to see what could happen, to 3 levels of talent. From Ethan Burke to Trey Moore to Colin Simmons. Like, that thing does not fall off. Colin looks like he's going to have to get a little bit bigger. Trey Moore looked a little bit quicker in person than I was anticipating. Ethan Burke is even slimmed down a little bit, and because we'd seen that bulkiness of him last 2 years, really. Vosick, Finkley, it's just an embarrassment of riches for a guy like PK to operate at a high level. And listen, you got to get to the quarterback. This team has done a good job at pressuring the quarterback, at getting close to him, just not necessarily coming through to it. This could be the year where they really do mess up the pass.
So that little drill where they had, inside run, we got to look at some of the first and second O-line and D-line. And Eric, you took the time to go over you spent most of your time focusing on defense. You got to see a little bit of what Kenny Baker, Pete Kwiatkowski, Johnny Nansen, with that crew was doing. What were some of your takeaways from not just the humans that you saw, but maybe the depth chart on defense as well?
Yeah, it kind of reinforced the fact that I'm not really worried about defensive tackle. Everybody's worried because they lost the Outland Trophy winner and Byron Murphy, who is first round draft pick. I understand why people are nervous and worried about it. I'm just they're going to make up for it with depth. They're not going to make up for it with individual like for likes. That's not going to happen. I think Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton are going to be a really good duo. I catch a lot of shrapnel on IT because I'm so high on Vernon Broughton. And yes, I'm very rigid to my high school evaluation that hasn't quite borne out yet. But Vernon gets off the damn ball, man. And not many defensive tackles get off the ball like Vernon does. I'm bullish on the D tackle. I buy it. If it's a stock, it's low. I'm buying it right now because I think it's going to raise throughout the season. Kenny Baker's got a lot to work with, and he's going to have to work with it. He's going to have to take advantage of what he has left. Bo Davis didn't leave him nearly as much as Bo Davis inherited. So he's going to have to work with that. He's going to take advantage of it with Alfred and Vernon, turn them into stars, and then hopefully he can turn that into a recruiting success. But I think defense it's a very, very deep position. It might not have difference makers outside of Alfred, and I'm still holding out hope that Vernon's a difference maker. But there's a lot of depth there. It really should not be a concern. The bigger concern, of course, is building a defense around them, having a cohesive unit rather than good units.
Before we move backwards in the defense, what did you see from some of the transfer defensive tackles? I know Bill Norton and Jermaine Lole, I've written about those guys over on Inside Texas and what their fit could be. But what did you see from Norton, Jermaine Lole, and maybe even Tia Savea, who's already been at Texas for a semester, but still is a new face in that defensive tackle room?
I was excited about the prospect of Bill Norton when it was rumored in the winter when we knew Texas was getting Johnny Nansen, well in advance of Texas getting Johnny Nansen. And so I was looking over that roster pretty thoroughly, and I liked Bill Norton then. I like him even more now. I think he moves well. He's definitely a big run stuffing type, two gapper, second biggest defensive tackle on the team behind Sadir Mitchell. I think he moves really pretty well for that size. Not really well, but pretty well for that size. You can see why Georgia took him out of high school. He's a good player. I think he's going to be solid to good, above average defensive tackle for Texas. Lole reminds me of Coburn in that, we measure these guys in Coburn's. Coburn was a unit of weight on Inside Texas for a long time. But to me, these guys are kind of like refrigerators. You measure them in, cubic centimeters, cubic feet. They might not be tall, but they're wide. They take up a lot of space. To me, Lole is like that. He's more like a refrigerator. He's not tall. He doesn't have. He's okay. He's got decent length, but he's wide, stem to stern. He's a wide guy. He's going to take up a lot of space, and he moved pretty well too. Savea is the smallest defensive tackle that's going to play a lot by far, which that tells me that they're going to have to stunt him quite a bit. Maybe play some defensive end and base defense. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Savea is the smallest by far. Norton's second biggest. Lole, he's right in the wheelhouse of a guy that could play nose tackle, defensive tackle, and maybe even some defensive end because he does move well.
Let's keep moving on back in the defense. And Justin, when we think about the linebackers, we kind of have an understanding of who that top four is. It's going to be Anthony Hill and David Benda. It's going to be Maurice Blackwell and even Leongo Lafau. What are some of the observations you saw from watching those guys work, and not just on defense, but that running drill we got to take a look at?
Yeah, I didn't get to see much of those guys on defense, to be totally honest with you. That's something, we had Eric on defensive assignment, but we did see a little bit of it in running drill. Look, Anthony Hill is a faster guy in the middle now. David Benda is your lunch pail type. He's been there. He's experienced. He understands the role. Maurice Blackwell just stands out. Like, he just has a hyper energy, a hyper enthusiasm, and he's just a hybrid. That's what he does. He stands out. Leona as well. And so I think linebacker play is going to be overshadowed this year. I think they're going to be so solid that we don't talk about them. And honestly, a lot of times that's a good thing with linebacker. If you're not talking about them, they're doing their job. They're shooting gaps. They're not getting caught in the wash. They're staying, at their level. And so linebacker is going to be an interesting transition without Jalen Ford, the 2-time starter back to headed to the NFL. But man, Anthony Hill, I think it's an upgrade in a lot of regards, because moving Anthony Hill to the middle, I think, adds so much more to this defense.
Here's where it's unfair. Linebackers going to be better this year, but we're not going to know it because the defensive tackles aren't the same. They're not going to keep this clean. So it's kind of like, if Texas gets knocked out early in the playoffs, a lot of people will say, hey, the team last year was better than this year. That's not going to be the case. This team is going to be better than last year. Sometimes there's just different factors that take your eye off the ball. The problem is with Anthony Hill is they lost Sweat, and Joe Cook could play linebacker behind Sweat and Murphy. Maybe not well, but he could do it. They've had walk-ons from the frat row before. Joe could do that, but it's going to be a whole different defense now. So is it going to look the same? Maybe not. And will Anthony Hill probably take some undue blame at times if the defensive tackles don't keep him clean? Probably so. But linebackers will play better this year than last year.
One thing with Anthony Hill and even David Benda, I think, has this quality, is if they make mistakes fast. That's something that Steve Sarkisian's talked about. If it's Anthony Hill, he's got recovery speed to put himself in the right spot and make some firm tackles. So that's some athleticism that maybe Texas hasn't put at linebacker in some time. Last one, Eric, just kind of some general takeaways from defensive back. It's a versatile group. There's probably going to be a lot of moving around, guys who can play different positions. We have a good understanding of where Malik Muhammad's going to be, but outside of that, there's a bunch of movement in the secondary when you think about Michael Taft, Derek Williams, Andrew Makuba, Jalen Gilbo, Javion Cole, Gavin Holmes.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of guys right there to determine where to put him on the field.
Yeah, Gilbo's the guy that I'm going to bird dog the most this August, just because it's going to tell us where Jahdae Barron's going to play. Exactly. And what Jahdae Barron's going to play is going to tell us what's happening with Gavin Holmes and those other guys. So, the potential to play Jahdae Barron at boundary corner, Malik Muhammad at field corner, and Jalen Gilbo at star really raises the ceiling to me for that defensive back room. The coverage there is really, really good. Barron and Gilbo were mentioned as two of the fastest defensive backs on the team. Gavin Holmes probably number one. That just raises the ceiling. It's going to be the man coverage ability between those three guys is really, really good. If Jalen Gilbo can handle the box duties of playing star, the mental aspect of playing star, there's a whole lot to process inside the box. I had a source say Jalen Gilbo can play corner with his eyes closed because of how much star gets him ready to do all the mental aspects of playing defensive back. That tells you a lot about the demands of the position. If Jalen Gilbo can handle the mental aspects of star, then they're going to have a lot of flexibility with what they can do at corner with Jahdae Barron. And I'm not worried about safety, man. I mean, Michael Taft is the leader in that room. There's a chance that he gets jumped. There's a chance that Derek Williams plays ahead of him or Andrew Makuba. If one of those guys jumps him, that tells you how good the safety room is, because Michael Taft is an above average safety, whether or not people realize it or want to admit it for whatever reason. He's a good safety. If he added 10 pounds, that guy would be headed to the league. There's no doubt about it. He just needs a little slight. If he gets jumped, in addition to Jalen Gilbo, if Michael Taft gets jumped, it's going to tell you how good the secondary is going to be.
One thing about the Stars, before we kind of move on to the offense, not the Dallas Stars, but the position, Terry Joseph coaching corners. He had the Stars with his group, Blake Gideon coaching safeties. Now that Texas and basically every other team can have unlimited analysts and coaches basically on the field, Scotty Hazelton, former Michigan State defensive coordinator, guy who worked for Mel Tucker, guy from the I'm not sure which coach at North Dakota State, but from the North Dakota State culture. He was out there coaching Stars. So that's an analyst in a position can give some very specific coaching instead of kind of Terry Joseph or Blake Gideon having to split that spot. So new information there. Before we go on to offense, got to give some thanks to our sponsors. That is Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, Put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designs and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision for your special home. Their all-star team provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs. Call them at 833-358-LUXE or visit Luxe Kitchen Bath, LUXE, to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Free quote today. Call 833-358-LUXE or luxekitchenbath.com. And again, the link is in our description. We'll go ahead and move on to offense. And one of the things that we were looking for, we knew who the first five on the offensive line were going to be based off what we had heard from our reports in the summer, and also Kyle Flood basically penciling in Cam Williams to right tackle next to his four starters. Quarterback, there's nothing to talk about at quarterback, even though there's a lot to talk about at quarterback. Running back, we have a good idea that it's going to be C.J. Baxter, Jaden Blue with some interspersing of Trey Wisner. Wide receiver, we had an idea of what it looks like. Eric, you've talked about the top three, top four at that position. Kyle Flood, the offensive coordinator, talked about rotating 9 guys through the first and second team throughout camp. But we got a good look at not only the star of the summer in Silas Bolden, but also how they deployed all the different receivers at the various roles.
Well, everybody, I was happy to hear everybody see Silas Bolden and pretty much parrot what we've been writing about through the summer, that the guy's a stud, and Sarkis mentioned as well. He's got much more length than you'd imagine with being 5'8". He's tough. The comparisons to Xavier Worthy are apropos, given his toughness, his speed, his quickness, and his ability to get vertical. He's not just a slot gadget guy because he's short. It's funny. I go back to what Charlie Williams said during the spring when they got Bolden. He said, no, he's going to play outside. I'm like, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. That's definitely right. Charlie was on the money a couple months ago. Everything we're hearing about Bolden is great. Bond, he's got to clean up the drops. We saw that in the spring game, saw that a little bit yesterday. He's the most ready guy to make a big impact this year. He's going to have to clean that up. Golden, like him for the slot, he brings some slot machine physicality to the position, some toughness, some running back ability after the catch, but he also can get vertical in ways that Texas wasn't able to get vertical from the slot very often last year. And then it's just depth, dude. UT boy always asking about Jonte. When he said he had a question, I knew exactly what he was going to ask about. Jonte is Isaiah Bond, just maybe a year behind. He's going to play all over the place, inside, outside, and he's going to make an impact this season. How big of an impact remains to be seen. That's going to, August will tell us that. But yeah, he's ready to play. All these guys are ready to play. Texas wants as many guys that are ready to play as possible. That increases depth. That increases competition. That increases the overall ability of the room. And now it's just a matter of who's going to win those reps. So Jonte's right in the thick of things. We'll see what he can do. To me, he was the best wide receiver in the spring game. If he can do that throughout August, he's going to play a whole lot. We already anticipate him playing a whole lot, but he might take some snaps from Bond. If Bond keeps dropping the ball, Jonte Cook's going to be right there to pick it up.
One of the things, and Justin, I think you may have noticed this as well. We know that they put the best 3 out there. It's not the best field wide receiver and then the best slot, and guys are just stuck in those spots, but they put the best 3. Still, it's worth seeing who lines up with the ones, and it's going to be worth seeing who lines up with the ones today. The first guy at boundary was Bond. The first guy at slot was Moore. And the first guy at field, kind of that worthy position, I think for most of last year, it was Jonte Cook. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like Jonte is just being forgotten or anything like that. And, it's nice to play with new toys, but some of the toys that you have for a while or at least a year are still pretty good too. And Jonte still pretty good too, especially as you look at that depth chart at field wide receiver from yesterday.
Yeah, listen, you want to maximize Jonte, throw him the football. It's pretty easy peasy there. He looked great. Him and Ryan Wingo, I felt, were the best 2 looking wide receivers yesterday. Jonte just doesn't no wasted motion, caught everything. Ryan Wingo's got some big, strong hands. He had one big catch, I know, towards the end of practice as well. Those two guys shine. Like Eric said, Bond's got to be a guy that's got to, he's got to clean up the drops a little bit, but that's sometimes a concentration thing. Honestly, DeAndre Moore and Jonte Cook are two guys. Everyone's talking about the new guys. Those two guys can ball. They've been in the system a year. They understand their role. They understand exactly where they need to be and when they – and listen, when it comes to this offense playing, it's about trust. Not just with Sark, but with Quinn Ewers. And if he can't trust you, he is not going to throw you the football. I think that gives Jonte and DeAndre kind of a heads up because they've been catching footballs from those guys already. And so there's already a connection there. Just in a lot of speed. I mean, there may not be that big 80 Mitchell, Colin Johnson, big outside type guy, but everybody can run. Everybody can catch. Everybody looks good. Yeah, Sark's going to have to play a deeper bench just because he has got plenty of guys. And I think you can find a good rotation there as well of newer guys and some of those old guys that have already been in the system for a little bit.
Those the first stringers were, mostly known. Wide receivers where the intrigue is. The second string offensive line, I think we were all pretty curious to figure out how that looked because of the fact that, the first five are set. And when you think about an offensive line, and this dates back to even the previous coaching staff, the second left tackle out there, they're not just going to plug him in if Kelvin Banks goes down. They're going to plug in, the sixth best offensive lineman. But there's a good chance Trevor Gooseby, who was that second string left tackle, is that sixth best offensive lineman. But looking at that second O-line, they went Gooseby, Hudson, Robertson, Umeozulu, Kojo. Justin, anything from that group kind of stand out? I feel like that's a pretty quality line. All those guys, except for Kojo, have seen in-game experience throughout their career, and a few of them have even started games for Texas.
Yeah, I felt like we were probably early on the Trevor Gooseby bandwagon, and we need a picture when we had Ian on the cover of that Stagecoach for Kyle Porter. Need me on there for this guy because he Gooseby he looks fantastic, man. He's going to get in the rotation this year. He's going to play. He looks too good and too strong not to. And he just moves you. That's one thing I noticed about him yesterday. He just moves people. I thought Brandon Baker looked pretty good. That guy, he finishes blocks. That guy is athletic. He has great feet. Daniel Cruz stood out to me. And I don't know if he's even the third string center or the fourth string center. Like I know it's all, it happens during the game, but man, Daniel Cruz looked good. That looked like your future center right there. He looked trimmed down. The guy was sharp. He was strong. And then Neto has such a quick first step. We're so used to seeing DJ Campbell there, who's just a monster, just a plugger. Neto's got that first step, and it's just he looks quick. He looks streamlined. It just shows you Kyle Flood, they do a tremendous job developing these guys from the best to the bottom, from the top of the depth chart to the end of it. These guys are constantly moving, constantly getting bigger and better. Listen, O-line's going to be a strength for 2024. There's no doubt. It doesn't drop off much in the second unit either, outside of experience. And so, listen, if I'm a quarterback, if I'm Sark, I'm happy each day because if I'm Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, I feel pretty good because you've got a really good stable of first and second teamers on that O-line. And listen, in the SEC, I think you're going to have to run 8 to 10 deep, at least 8. You're going to have to at least run 8, and I feel like that's probably where they're at right now.
Eric, I like this one from our buddy UT Parking. Love the idea of O-linemen sitting until they're near 3 or 4, then cycling to the next one. Texas is kind of in that position now. There are exceptions, but the exceptions are exceptions like Kelvin Banks. Having a bigger, stronger, older offensive line in college ball is flames emoji. And that's what Kyle Flood's biggest project was when he showed up at Texas. And it looks like he's done a phenomenal job of getting it there.
That second team O-line that you just named a couple minutes ago would be better than some of the starting O-lines that Texas had maybe under her and before that.
Yes.
It's just
the days of Terrell Cooney are gone.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Whew.
I've got a good
Taylor Doyle is not walking through that room.
They need to prioritize D-tackle like they do offensive line, but I think they're getting there. But yeah, exactly right. The offensive line is ready. The only problem with what UT Parking is saying there is that It's hard to keep those guys in the program year after year after year with so many other teams needing those offensive linemen. But that's what you want, man. You want grown men beating up younger guys. And when you have offensive linemen stepping in, it's not, you're not worried about Cameron Williams coming in and starting in year 3. You would worry about him starting as a true freshman. Kyle Flood has put himself in a position where he doesn't have to worry about playing true freshman on the offensive line. It's an incredibly demanding position, physically, mentally, technically. And so he's got guys when he does have to play them, when he does have to bring in somebody for injury replacement, they're ready to play. They've been ready to play. And so when you get Cameron Williams in year number 3, he's not your typical first-year starter. He's ready to go. And they've got that assembly line in place, that offensive line. They've got it in place other places as well, off a wide receiver like we just mentioned, edge we talked about earlier. They've got depth exactly where they need it to be on offensive line.
Got over 1,200 watching. Thank y'all for watching and joining us. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're listening on podcast, go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Of course, head to Inside Texas, where we have complete coverage of even yesterday's practice, more of today's, more of Friday's. We're going to have everything covered there. But make sure you also get some questions in the comments. We will hit those, whether it's team. We will even hit some recruiting ones as well. But we got to get our super chat in from UT Parking. And Justin, is Nick Brooks better than Fasusi? I think I know where you're going to go with this one.
No.
All right, next.
Listen, those are 2 different positions.
What a weird question. Hey,
it really is, man. They're 2 different positions. Fasusi is your franchise left tackle, just beautiful, sculpted, moldable frame of 6'5", 295. I mean, looks like a literal $1 million. Nick Brooks is more of your interior guy, more of your large human quotient. I think you got to have I think Flood has a quota of how many Coburn types, metric tons he brings in every cycle. Nick Brooks gets you to that threshold. He is huge upon huge. He's your interior guy. He's more of a guard. And so, Texas is still hanging around the rim with Nick Brooks. They're still looking. They're in good shape there. So that recruitment, Eric and I were talking about yesterday, that recruitment's going to be something we're following a lot more closely, along with Fasusi, who decides this month. It's the first of the month, so he's got a decision in 3 weeks. But is Brooks better than Fasusi? Nah, bro.
One of the things that Steve Sarkisian talked about yesterday was players who have transformed themselves and made some progress in the weight room. He mentioned Brandon Baker, obviously a 5-star from that class, but he also mentioned Ty Anthony Smith, who from Jasper probably came in a little light as a linebacker, maybe closer to that 200-pound mark. But Sark said he was talking to Ty Anthony over the course of the past couple weeks, and he's like, man, how much weight have you put on? Ty Anthony told him like 20 pounds. So Ty Anthony seems like someone who's physically impressed. Aside from Ty Anthony, who are some other guys that you want to maybe get better eyes on today to see their physical specs and how they look, coming off the bus, I guess to say.
To stick with Ty Anthony for a second, he's the quintessential East Texas guy that needs to add weight. Everyone's like, oh, is he going to get big enough? No, you don't worry about that. You don't worry about that. These guys are genetic freaks. They're going to eat right. They're going to lift weights, and they're going to gain weight. Ty Anthony is the perfect example of that. He's he's already up 20 pounds. We said it the other day. Sark said it yesterday. I love it when he does that. But yeah, Ty Anthony's got a chance to play on special teams this year. I think he's going to play because he's fast and physical. He's not just the inside the box linebacker. He's fast, physical athlete that's putting on the right weight. I expect him to show some bite this year as a true freshman. Other guys I want to see this year today. I want to see more of Santana Wilson because he wasn't here during the spring. And I saw some really good acceleration from him yesterday. I heard his name a couple times from the coaches praising him. I want to see more of Kobe Black just because, I think he's got a chance to play in the boundary this year. If Malik Muhammad plays in the field more often this year than he did last year, then there's going to be a chance for Barron to be at star and then Kobe Black to maybe play boundary corner, which is what he profiles, what he's recruited as. Yeah. He's recruited with replacing Ryan Watts in mind. So I'm curious to see more of him. Outside of that, I like watching Alex January every day just because I realize how much they need defensive tackles to step up. And January, you kind of forget their number from spring to fall. He caught my eye again yesterday. I'm like, who the hell is 97? Of course, January, he caught my eye. He's just a very, very important player for the program. For some of these guys, 2024 is about 2025, and that's exactly what it is for January. I want to see more of him. And I can never get enough of Ryan Wingo, man. I think that guy's a future top 10 pick. We saw Rome Odunze cook Texas last year. I think Ryan Wingo is going to cook a lot of guys like Rome Odunze did last year.
Justin, I know you're back up in East Texas, but who are some of the guys that, if getting back to practice too, maybe you didn't put your eyes on, but you would like for us to make sure get some recognition?
It's a good question, Joe. I liked what I saw from a little bit from Jordan Johnson-Rebel yesterday and Xavier Filsaime. I thought those guys, they looked the parts. If there were guys I wanted to see a little bit more of today, well, one is I just enjoyed watching these guys throw the ball. Man, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning and Trey Owens, that ball just hums out, and that's fun for me to see those guys go through the motions. They are so freaking good at throwing that pill around. I'd love to put my eyes on them. I want to see Jordan Washington in a little bit of a passing game because I've seen him physically. I'm seeing him move the sled to one side of the field to the other. Like that athleticism just jumps off the screen. I love the Inside Texas early eval on that kid because I want to see more of him in the passing game. I want to see how he can be effective at that side of, at that level. Punters. When are we going to see the punters, Joe? Like, when are you getting a punting? I need a punting review.
I saw the punter that caught my eye yesterday. I had to look at the program was Charlie Ferris. I don't know who Charlie Ferris is. Charlie Ferris, you kicked the hell out of the ball yesterday. He was taking advantage of that breeze, putting a spiral into the breeze, and it was carrying. And then I was like, all right, that's fine, that's good. Yeah, anybody catch a spiral, I can kick a punt far if I catch a spiral. But then he had some end over ends that were pretty damn far too. One that I saw from Michael Kern, end over end, went at least 45 yards. So that gives you a lot of confidence in his leg. But yeah, punter, it was funny. But, they didn't take a punter during the portal, and they could have taken a punter. They could have taken a good punter. And then the first thing out of Banks' mouth was, we don't know what we're going to do at punter. It's going to be a work in progress. I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on here? I just took up with the special teams coaches all offseason. Like, hey, if they don't take a punter, they don't feel like they need one. And then Banks, first thing out of his mouth, was like, yeah, I don't know what we're going to do at punter. Like, hopefully one of these guys can kick, So that had me watching punter a lot more closely than I would have otherwise. But Charlie Ferris, man, I don't know if he's a real threat to punt this year, but he was kicking the hell out of it. I'll watch them a little more closely. Michael Kern put a leg into a couple of them. But yeah, I was just shocked for Banks to say that we're like, we're going to figure out punter on the fly when they passed on some pretty proven punters in the portal.
One thing I thought
David Williams has a comment about Kobe Black and Ryan Watts. David, let me give you Kobe Black is faster than Ryan Watts. Okay, he's faster than Ryan Watts. We saw both those guys in high school. I never saw Ryan Watts running routes, playing quarterback, taking a jet sweep. I saw Kobe Black doing all of that. Kobe Black is more athletic and he's faster than Ryan Watts. I just had to get that up and out because Kobe looks the part, guys. I know he's 6'1.5", 6'2". He looks like a giant among some of those corners out there. I can't wait to see more of him as well.
So going to get to questions. One last thing on punter. Hey, gunner is a topic, and I'll touch on it real quick. They're throwing basically all the most athletic dudes that they have on this roster out there at gunner. Some of the guys included, and I got my list right here, Jaden Blue. They had Trey Wisner, DeAndre Moore, Javian Cole, Silas Bolden, Xavier Filsaime, Isaiah Bond, Jonte Cook, Gavin Holmes, Warren Roberson. Like, those are some guys who are going to be involved for the most part in different parts of the defense and the offense. But, I mean, it's one of the things that they need to replace because Keaton Crawford's at Nevada and Keelan Robinson's in the NFL. So if they want to have quality special teams, figuring out gunner is going to be important.
Wisner is going to be one of those guys. He's going to be the Keelan Robinson. He was sold on being Keelan Robinson. They're going to get him to the NFL like they got Keelan Robinson to the NFL as a guy that can play third running back or special teams. Trey Wisner's being sold on that. So that's one gunner. Don't lock that in stone. Who the other gunner is going to tell us a lot about that player's future. It's not going to be Jaden Blue. It's not going to be Jaden Blue. It was funny. Obviously he can run out. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. He's built like a gunner. Not going to happen. I'm curious to see who that second gunner is going to be because that's going to tell us a whole lot. That guy's going to be tough. He's going to be very fast, and he's going to be ready to go downhill, run down the field like the Ultimate Warrior, like Chris Boyd used to, and cause havoc. It's going to tell us a lot about that player. Trey Wisner's one. Who the other gunner is, something to watch though. That's going to tell us a lot about that player.
Man, give me some Warren Roberson on that other side. Give me that dude. My God.
Hey, Roberson was getting praise yesterday. In corner drills that I saw. I forgot to mention that in my article on IT. That is the perfect guy, Justin. Very good pull there. Warren Roberson, fast, physical, and fearless. That actually makes sense as the second gunner. We'll see if it plays out that way.
About to start going through questions. Make sure you get those into the chat as we are going through things. And yeah, I like that one. Josh Thompson, great gunner for Dixon, a receiver, essentially. So that was some great gunners at Texas in history. But let's start going through some of your questions. This one also from Chris Bennett. How did Sadir Mitchell look? Did he look slimmed down? If you go to our photo gallery over from on Inside Texas, Will Gallagher took a lot of great pictures. There's a picture of Sadir Mitchell right by Alfred Collins. And Sadir Mitchell is bigger, but he's not too much bigger. Whereas last year it might have been too much Sadir and not enough Alfred. But how do you look in your eyes, Eric?
Yeah, I mentioned on the live yesterday. Was that a live? No, that wasn't a live. That was anyway. I mentioned on the video yesterday that I remembered him vividly running down the field last year in pursuit drills and going, "Oh man, this guy's got a ways to go." This year he looked better. Still has a ways to go, but much better. Trending in the right direction. Maybe not trending as fast as everyone would have liked. But again, with Sadir, it's like Alex January, 2024 is for 2025. He's trending in the right direction. Let's keep him engaged. I see a lot of people, at least on IT, they're kind of, questioning whether or not he's ever going to pan out. Guys, you just had T'Vondre Sweat, who came out of nowhere to win the Outland Trophy. Don't give up on these guys, especially these big guys. It's hard to be a big football player. It's very hard. The day-to-day grind is a whole lot different than it is for somebody 6 foot, 200 pounds. Sadir Mitchell's trending in the right direction. It's not going to be an overnight success, but I think he will be a success at some point.
Keep on going. Eric, this one may be for you as well. Are you able to expand on Torrey Becton's measurements for how well a team is expected to perform during the season?
Every time I talk to somebody about that, they're really kind of whispering. I don't think they want that secret sauce out there. And so I'm just going to, keep that one under wraps. I will say that last year predicted them to win 12 games. Should I say this year what it predicts them to win? I don't know if I want to say that, but it predicts them to win more than 12 games like they won last year. Last year it predicted 12 and they won 12. We'll see what goes on this year. The team is smart. The team is fast. It's experienced. All the things that test is supposed to expose. They passed in flying colors. I'm not going to put out what they're supposed to do this season just because the expectations are already high enough. But it should be a good season based on that metric and based on what we see ourselves in practice and what we all know. You guys know as much about this team as we do by now. It's a good team. It's okay to believe in this team. It's okay to have high expectations. But I'm not sure I want to raise it to the point that tested.
Yeah. Hey, Vegas already has it up pretty high at like 10.5, I think. So,
well, we're talking about for the entire season. They won 12 last year, which, both those losses, neither of those losses should have been. That team should have gone to the national championship and maybe lost to Michigan. But, we'll see. There's a lot more to cover about this team where there's a lot more questions that aren't going to be solved in August that we're going to have to figure out during the season. It's going to be about SART, game-to-game, week-to-week management, in-game management. But this team on paper is a playoff team. It's a conference championship winning caliber team. That test backs up everything that you believe about this team going into the season.
Got one from Scooter Lannister. When was the last time Texas was ranked number 1 in the AP poll? And with a win in Ann Arbor in week 2, does the AP poll put Texas number 1? Justin, do you know the answer to this
2008.
one? All right. What about part 2? Do you think Texas can jump?
No. Georgia's going to have to fall off a cliff.
That's if they beat Michigan on the road. I know Michigan is falling off. If they beat Michigan off the road and Texas isn't number 1, it's totally bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. I mean,
maybe, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that's 2 different conversations. It will be nonsense if they beat Michigan, the defending national championship. You're still beating that culture. You're still beating that defense. Yes, they have a lot of questions and a lot of turnover. It'll be way more impressive than anything Georgia's done to that point. But you know how these preseason polls are nonsense. Like Sark says, it's fun for the fans. It's fun for media. A lot of media is dumb. If Texas beats Michigan, and let's say they beat them convincingly, which I think it could be a 27-13 type of game that's not that close. They should be number 1.
Y'all are doubting Clemson. What if Clemson beats Georgia in week 1 or 2? Not likely.
Dabo is gone and he's never coming back. He's not. You got to adapt. He's gonna hold off the decline better than Jimbo Fisher did. But once you lose it, it's never coming back. I don't care what he does. It's not coming back for Dabo. I'm not a believer in that team at all. I watched them. They should have lost like 4 games last year that they didn't lose. Sorry, dude. Georgia beating Clemson does not impress me.
They should take somebody in the portal. They should try that.
Yeah, they might try that. And Mike Elko beat him last year, right? Duke, in like one of the ugliest football games of last season. Give me a break. Dabo's past his prime. What is he, like 48, 50 or something? He's too young to be past his prime, but he's past his prime.
Yeah.
Going to hit this one from.
Hold on. Is UT boy ever right? Clemson is not beating Georgia, dude. Oh man. Come on,
they're probably going to be relying on Wesco, I think, this year. I think he may end up starting.
They're going to be relying on Cade Klubnik, and that's the key, the tricky part there.
Clemson is dead now. The question is can they rise? It's taking longer than 3 days.
Dabo's got to throw up some Hail Marys to get this one fixed.
Be a service academy with the lack of transfers. David Keith Williams says. It's unusual to me that Coach Flood is working Hayden Connor and Cole Hudson at center. Connor Robertson, Daniel Cruz are good enough second and third centers where Connor and Hudson can focus on guard. I mean, you're really not sacrificing that much time, I feel like, to give those guys opportunities. And if they are able to handle it all, you're probably going to want the experienced players, the senior, the third-year junior, with size, maybe over specialized centers who are still kind of earlier in their careers, right, Justin?
Yeah, listen, first of all, Kyle Flood is going to play the best 5. Second of all, he's finding out the Swiss Army knives on this offensive line. Cole Hudson can play 3 or 4 different spots. Hayden Connor can play 3 spots. You want that versatility because if you're in Michigan, it's the 4th quarter and it's close. I don't think Connor Robertson's going to be hiking the ball. I don't think Daniel Cruz is either. I think they would go to one of those other 2. Not to say Robertson couldn't fill in and do that. Not to say Cruz, who looked good yesterday, couldn't. But, Williams, you got to be more versatile. You can't be so rigid. You got to move these pieces around and find the best puzzle, the best mix. Sometimes that might be moving one guy to the one Connor to another side. And so I think it's good development. Keeps them versatile, keeps them engaged. Because you don't want some guy just sitting in one spot, standing in water. It keeps them engaged, keeps them moving, and I think sometimes you keep those guys in the program by doing that. Otherwise, you might lose them in the portal as well.
You have to remember that that's a processing position. Quarterback, middle linebacker, safety. You got to process, and those guys are going to be able to process, identify defenses, and call it out. Whereas Daniel Cruz is certainly not ready. Cruz has the whole skill set. We were talking about it in a group chat the other day, who the best center is since Lyle Senline is Jake Majors. Ian Boyd said Senline's going to be the best one for a long time. I said he's going to be the best one until Daniel Cruz comes around. Yeah. Cruz is going to be that guy. The only problem is not as a true freshman. Then the game moves so fast. There's so many different stunts, the line calls to make. That's just not going to happen, man. And that's why you want Connor or Cole Hudson. I think Cole Hudson can play center in the NFL, honestly. And that's where you want experience at that position if you can have it. Those other guys, Connor Robertson, I'm not sure he has the physicality yet. Daniel Cruz, he just doesn't have the time under tension. Cruz is going to be a monster, just not this year.
We will keep on going. Ashley F. Trey Moore won't disappoint us. I think we saw him there first string at Buck. This is, along with Silas Bolden, one of the players who, although a newcomer, and although I don't want to say limited because that entails injury, but I think they knew what they had in him in the spring and didn't want to risk him like with Jahdae Barron. Someone who turned heads all summer and was there with the starters even on day one of practice at that Buck position. And if he's anything like his video game counterpart, he may be one of the best players in the entire country this upcoming season. Justin, knowing what we know about Jeff Traylor, that UTSA program, what Trey Moore has done, it seems like the expectations should be sky high for Moore this upcoming season.
It seems like we should have been more on the ball on when we were discussing who would be the third highest rated guy on College Football 25. We knew Ewers and Banks were the guy, and we were debating who would be in that third spot. We never mentioned Trey Moore, and that's our fault. That we missed the ball on that. I'll admit it. Trey Moore.
What did we miss the ball on?
College Football 25 put out rankings.
Oh, I thought you meant Inside Texas.
And it gives you an idea of where people think certain players are rated, and whatnot. We didn't know Trey Moore was going to be the third highest guy. I think we had him at like 5, 6, maybe even 7. Yeah. Trey Moore shot up to the third best player on that rankings, and for good reason. Like, this guy has been uber productive in the 2 years he's been on a college football field. He gets better every single year. And if you talk to the guys at UTSA, there's not one player they're more disappointed in losing. There wasn't one guy that has gone through that system under Jeff Traylor they were more sad to see leave. That is a good sign. This guy went from no stars, no offers to all conference at UTSA. All he's do is going to climb. Hey, you got Colin Simmons, you got Ethan Burke, you got Colton Vosick, you got an embarrassment of riches out there. Trey Moore might be the guy that gets to the quarterback more than anybody this year.
I heard Jeff Traylor was on XM College Radio, and they have playoff aspirations. It's a thing in the 12-team playoff that UTSA can have. So I think one of the underrated storylines that we haven't talked much about is Texas has a schedule full of playoff contenders. UTSA counts if they can do good things in the American and get that high rating. So it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough to overcome Liberty, but there is a path. I like this one. Which Longhorn is going to win the dog chain and bring the wood to the defense? This is our test this year. There's no turnover chain at Texas. There's no turnover slot machine like our guy Charlie Williams used to run over at UNLV, but I have one that I think is going to be an established guy who brings the wood, and one maybe a little bit underrated. And Justin, I'll toss this one your way. I think we all think
we've all got one.
It's all the same guy. Yeah, duh.
Anthony Hill for the
you got Anthony Hill. That's the easy choice. That's the easy pick. Give me Mr. Kicked out of the Big 12 championship, Derek Williams.
You took mine.
Let me tell you, he might have a turnover chain just for after the game, just to wear around town. Derek Williams is a guy that if you're not paying attention with your head on a swivel, he is going to earhole you into another area code.
One of the things I think if you ever listen to players talk about Derek Williams, they talk about how good of a tackler he is. And I think that's something that's very, very, you can bring the big hits, and we know Anthony Hill can do that. And it seems like it's common for anybody who wears number 0 on the Texas defense. But I think Derek Williams, he'll be able to bring the big hits, and he will be able to make the needed hits as well.
Hey man, I got to answer this. I trust my wife as much as I trust the 2 other guys on this video, but it was still comforting when my son came out with these same teeth. I got sharp teeth, man. Yeah, I'm a carnivore,
And my son has the exact same thing.
No need for a paternity test. Gringo Horn eats celery for dinner. We're carnivores in my house. We take meat off the bone. We're Vikings. That's how we do it. Turkey legs, all that. So we got sharp teeth, evolutionary pattern. It was comforting when my son had the same teeth. Thanks for the question, though, man. I appreciate that.
Got to get to a few more. Thank you to the 2,000 who are watching us on all our different platforms. Thank you to football for this question. Love this group. Best team coverage from what was reported.
Joe, where's the question mark in there?
Right here. Is Javion Cole still learning the defense, and that's why he's low in the pecking order? Eric, that makes a lot of sense. It's still some acclimation for him. We even saw Jermaine Lole and Bill Norton, I guess, lower. But Javion Cole, this is someone who's not going to struggle learning a playbook. He's not going to struggle, I feel like, acclimating too much. There's still going to be an adjustment period, but this is someone who's going to get the game pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment period, but there's also other factors to account for. Gavin Holmes had a very good spring, and he received a lot of praise yesterday. Nobody covers receivers as naturally as Gavin, like just his ability to blanket. Nobody has the skill set that Gavin has, the loose hips, the quick feet, the acceleration, the ability to mirror very good wide receivers. Nobody has that like Gavin on the roster.
Experience too.
Yeah, and he's got experience in the playbook, and it's coming around for him. The problem with him is, they mix and match a lot of different coverages, and so there's a processing component to it. That's what Terrence Brooks is going to be a very good man cover corner, but when it comes to the processing aspects of it, playing off corner and all that stuff, that's the question. So Javion's still learning that the different calls within the scheme. It's a very meticulous scheme for corners and defensive backs in general. It's not as simple as a lot of other places where they just throw out the ball, cover the guy. But Gavin has a jump on Javion, and then there's also the other aspect of if Jahdae Barron's playing one corner, that means Malik Muhammad's going to have field corner, which is where Cole and Holmes are playing. So there's no concerns about Cole. It's just there's other factors that are going to have. He's going to have to compete and earn that job. He's going to have to learn and start processing and prove that he can to win those snaps over guys that have more experience in the scheme.
Justin, I don't think Waco is in East Texas yet, but you spent a ton of time in Waco last couple of years, whether it was Kobe Black, even Trey Wisner when he was at Connolly, and Jelani McDonald as well. Our buddy Roaster is ready to see some Jelani, and I like that as well. I feel like even if he doesn't see the field quickly at safety, that's going to be a difference maker on special teams like he even was last year.
This is the year we're going to see him spark a little bit. He's going to flash a little bit. Next year, I think, will be where he's solidified in that rotation. But this is going to be the year to where you're going to see some of that spark. Look, Jelani he's a special kid. I think he's a special talent. Very underrated as an athlete. Does a lot of things well. But the best thing, I think, is his temperament, his personality. A lot of guys like Jelani would come in knowing that they can do a lot of different things versatility-wise and not leaving, deciding, you know what, I'm going to strap my boots and get ready and go to work. Jelani would be a guy, and normally from other programs that you might see hit the portal just so he could get on the field maybe a year quicker, even if he's not ready. Jelani's slowly getting ready. He showed some stuff last year on special teams. He showed a little bit in the secondary in the time that he played. I think this is going to be a fun year for him because he's one of the guys when we were watching DBs yesterday that stood out, not just on the field, but his presence, his size. He's not a huge guy, but he's not a small guy. He easily at 200, 205 pounds. That guy looks great. And so 2 years ago, there's no athleticism in the safety room. In 2024, it's loaded with athletes. Go figure in the Sark era.
Last major one from Richard McCleary. Outside the O-line, is there a position group that is the key to Texas having a very successful season? I think it's a position group we all have confidence in, but for me, quarterback. Let's see. I want to see it from Quinn Ewers.
Quarterback's simple. You can say that every year, but obviously you have to say it, right? I mean, you talk about the two force multipliers that create virtuous cycles is going to be quarterback and offensive line. That's obvious. I wrote them two reasons why I'm bullish on this season is because of quarterback and offensive line. But for me, it's edge. If you want to go outside the box, you got to go with edge. If they get pressure on the quarterback like we expect, it's going to make life so much easier on the coverage units. And I anticipate that happening. But I liked what I saw. Baron Sorrell was leaned up yesterday, man. He's never carried a lot of bad weight. but he looked even leaner. If that translates to more twitch around the edge, more bend around the edge, if you can get up to 8-9 sacks, then that the edge unit's going to be really good. Obviously, Trey Moore apparently is very good in NCAA 2025. Is going to have a big season too. So I think that the edge is going to be is the force multiplying group on defense, making up for and those guys can play the run too, man. That's going to help out the defensive tackles where they're taking a step back. I think edge is the one to watch.
In edge inside the box.
Yes, outside the box thinking here on. Oh my God, man, dad jokes. Hey, you're ready for that baby, buddy?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, man. I saw Eric. You wanted to look at this one. It looks like Sark needs to run the ball more and diversify the run game. Too much inside zone last year and got pass happy. When you got to make comebacks, you got to pick up yardage quickly. But curious what you think on this run game. I think they're going to be varied all over the place.
Well, I'm a West Coast offense sort of guy after growing up on the West Coast and seeing Bill Walsh. And so you're going to see outside zone a lot more. And I think Sark is going to lean in outside zone with this team. Especially Kelvin Banks. Give me a break, dude. That guy can get out and get some blocks down the field in space. You're going to wrap around. These guards can get out in space. So I'm really bullish on outside zone. And then Jaden Blue, obviously his speed. If you get him outside, he's going to bust a lot of angles. But I think C.J. Baxter as a cut and go runner is very good as well. So I think you're going to see more diversification in the run game. We will see more outside zone. In addition to inside zone. And it sounds like they're working on some gap schemes as well, which I think that's definitely designed for C.J. Baxter. That's what he ran in high school. Just to give him more certainty, just to let him know where that lane's going to be. But I think outside zone is going to be a fixture this season. UT Parking is going to end up pretty happy with the results, I believe.
Last one, we can look ahead to October because we can always look ahead to October. Anything in Dallas for the OU game? Haven't scheduled anything yet, but considering how much fun we have up there, I would not. I would plan on us having something going on up there.
Yeah, last year we got to Katy Trail a little bit too late. You got to get to Katy Trail Ice House early that day. This year I promised to be there at 11 and get some tables. We ended up going to another bar. Had a great time, about 30, 40 of us. It was a good time, but we'll probably do Katy Trail Ice House Friday, and I'll get there when it opens. We'll run a big tab. If they're winning, IT will run a big tab. If they're losing, I appreciate y'all picking me up.
Thank everybody as well for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, help us get to 10,000. We're going to have more even this afternoon. Longhorns hit the field at about 2:30 or so. They let us stay for a pretty long time yesterday, longer than we anticipated, but we will have some instant reaction up. I'll be talking to the players today. We will have Justin and Eric and maybe even our producer, Texas Homer, helping out with some of the post-practice reaction. Make sure you head to Inside Texas. We have the best practice reports. We have recruiting updates. Justin, it's going to be a busy month of August on recruiting as well with a number of 5-stars. We're going to be getting out to schools for camp soon enough. So you are going to want to head to Inside Texas. Join us, join the thousands who are on Inside Texas and come be a part of the best Longhorn community. Thank you for watching. Almost 2,500 here watching. Thank you for liking this video. We'll have more today. We'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel, powered by InsideTexas.com.